Whether it's injuries we didn't plan on or guys dropping 40-plus point games that were not expected, the running back position has never been harder to figure out. So let's go ahead and run through my top 30 running back rankings to see if we can figure out your best lineup for week 4. Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? We've got to run through my running back rankings. I have got the top 30 guys for you for week 4 of the NFL season, and then I got a few guys that are just sitting outside the top 30 looking in and why they didn't quite make it. Hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new here to the channel, and let's dive right into it. Number 1 overall this week, I think you already guessed it, Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers taking on Arizona this week. Christian McCaffrey going up against the 26th ranked run defense in the NFL right now. If the 49ers can get out in front of Arizona, they'll control the end of the game, which means a lot of attempts for Christian McCaffrey. He'll definitely put some nice yards together and, of course, scoring that touchdown. Kenneth Walker at number 2, going up against the New York Giants. You might be a little bit surprised to see Kenneth Walker this high, but the New York Giants ranked 29th against the run right now. And with the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, listen, if the Giants offense is anything like they've been for a majority of the season so far, Seattle can get out in front, pound the ball with Kenneth Walker. He's going to have a big day on the ground, probably add a little bit through the air and score us a touchdown. Tony Pollard going up against New England. Not too many people in the NFL right now getting as many touches as he is. He's averaging 24 touches a game right now and over 100 total yards. One of the only running backs to finish inside the top 24 each of the first 3 weeks. The volume is there. The upside is there. Derrick Henry going up against Cincinnati, who is ranked 31st against the run right now. Derrick Henry, hopefully he's a lot healthier this week than he was last week. A lot of people giving up, but that was a tough matchup for him last week. Knew he was going to come out on the short end of the stick there. This week, though, going up against Cincinnati, they're going to want to keep Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the rest of the Cincinnati offense off the field, and that's where Derrick Henry steps in. There is nobody in the industry that has DeAndre Swift ranked higher than me right now, and is that a mistake? Maybe. Maybe it is. Washington's defense currently ranked 22nd against the run. DeAndre Swift has looked absolutely insane the last couple of weeks. I'm going to jump on board for him to continue that trend this week. I've got him at number 5. And at number 6, no word yet on if he will play, but if Austin Ekeler does play this week, I'm going to have him as high as number 6. Keep an eye on the rankings. If for some reason he's limited, he'll drop. Keep an eye on if he's out completely. Then he's out. Everybody will move up, and we'll talk about Joshua Kelly more here in just a minute. Josh Jacobs at number 7, going up against the LA Chargers. Here's the issue with Jacobs right now. He's doing just enough in 2 out of 3 weeks to keep you hooked. He's only had one really bad week, but the upside just hasn't been there as of yet. But the guy's averaging 17 touches a game because the workload he is seeing in the passing game. There's not a whole lot of running backs right now that are getting between 17 and 20 guaranteed touches a game. Josh Jacobs is a guy I'm not willing to give up on yet because of how often he is utilized in this offense. Bijan Robinson at number 8 across the pond this weekend going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense is tough against the run. They're ranked 8th against the run right now and has given up the 7th fewest fantasy points per game to the running back position. Bijan Robinson not coming off a great week last week, going up against the Detroit Lions, but he's averaging 19 touches a game right now, and he's heavily being utilized in the passing game. For both of those reasons, he's a top 10 option against Jacksonville. James Cook at number 9. James Cook is a guy, he hasn't scored a touchdown yet, and people are really down on the fact that he's being taken off the field inside the 5-yard line, but he's averaging 18 touches a game and 111 total yards. He's also putting together 12.8 half PPR points per game right now, going up against a Miami defense that is ranked 24th against the run. Now, obviously, their defense definitely not looking as good because their offense looks so good. But I see this being a game where Buffalo really tries to stay balanced, keep Tua off the field as long as possible, and take control of this game. And if it does, James Cook should be well over 100 total yards again. At number 10, Aaron Jones. He is expected to play tonight going up against Detroit. I'm going to put him inside the top 10 here against that Detroit offense. Green Bay is going to have to run and throw the football, and Aaron Jones is going to help in both of those areas. And considering how poorly A.J. Dillon has played the last 2 weeks, I'm sure we'll see a heavy dosage of Aaron Jones. And with it still only being week 4, I can't imagine that the Green Bay Packers are going to throw Aaron Jones out there if they truly didn't feel like he was healthy and ready to go. If he wasn't, they would have held on another week to make sure that they don't make this injury linger longer into the season. Travis Etienne at number 11 in London going up against Atlanta. Atlanta's defense has been very good this year in terms of stopping running back points. Third fewest fantasy points allowed to the running back position. However, their run defense is ranked 17th in the NFL. So they're giving up yards to the running back position. They're giving up rushing yards. Travis Etienne is a guy for me this week that necessarily doesn't have the highest ceiling, but I think he has a pretty decent floor. He does carry some risk because of how low that ceiling could end up being, but Jacksonville, I feel like they're going to run the football this weekend. Yeah, they're going to throw it a little bit as well, but if Jacksonville can get out in front and Desmond Ridder can't keep up with them, then Travis Etienne will see plenty of touches in the second half. Zach Moss at number 12 going up against the LA Rams. Now, this isn't going to be the best matchup in the world. The LA Rams are currently ranked 13th in the league against the run. You've got Aaron Donald stuffing it right in the middle. Zach Moss probably will not see the upside that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, but I'm trying to respect the fact that Zach Moss has had back-to-back good weeks and not overreact and drop him way down in the rankings because of this matchup and because of Anthony Richardson returning. I think if you're starting Zach Moss, you have got to keep that in mind, that Anthony Richardson returning could take as many as like 10 carries away from Zach Moss this weekend. Keep an eye on that. The ceiling might not be very high, but if Indianapolis can stay right there with LA or even in front, Zach Moss should still get a decent amount of looks on the ground. All right, Raheem Mostert at number 13. And give me a second to kind of clarify something that I said in my start and sit video about him and Devon Achane, who we will talk about in a minute here. But with Raheem Mostert, he was one of my big sleepers of the offseason. Did I see the type of performance that we've seen so far from him? Absolutely not. But I did know that if he stayed healthy, that he was going to offer us some fantasy upside, and that he definitely has done. All right. But I said in my start and sit video, if you're making me pick whoever the RB1 is in Miami this Sunday, holding a gun to my head, Kyle, who are we going with? I would say right now it would actually be Devon Achane. And here's the reason why. At the beginning of the game last week against Denver, they seemed to be getting Achane a little bit more involved in the passing game and utilizing him a little bit quicker than what they did with Mostert. Mostert could still be the number 1 this week, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get more touches than Achane. And I'm not overreacting to the performance that Achane had because I also don't believe he's going to put up that many yards. He's not going to score 4 touchdowns again. He's not going to go for well over 200 total yards. It's not going to happen. But this is a tougher matchup going up against Buffalo that may not allow them to run the football as much as they would like. And if they're not going to be doing that, I could see Achane being on the field a little bit more often. Here's the reason why. Because if they're not able to run the football as much as they would like to because they're down, you put Achane on the field, you can stay a little bit more balanced because you can run it or pass it with him. If Mostert is on the field, a majority of the time, the defense is probably going to key in on the fact that they're probably going to be running the football. Keep an eye on that with having Achane on the field this week against Buffalo, it allows them to stay a little bit more balanced. If you wanted to flip-flop Mostert and where I end up having Achane, I could absolutely see that happening. But once again, I'm giving credit where credit is due. Mostert has been the guy so far. We'll see if he's the guy against Buffalo. Jahmyr Gibbs at number 14 going up against Green Bay. Now, he didn't look awful last week. Again, we have not seen his ceiling that everybody is looking for so far Carr and David Montgomery will be back this week going up against Green Bay, but my guy is still going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. I do feel like that there is still going to be some potential for him to maybe hit a home run here this Thursday going up against Green Bay. Green Bay's defense hasn't been bad this season, but they are ranked 27th against the run right now, which would be good for Jahmyr Gibbs. At number 15, Ramondre Stevenson going up against Dallas. We all know Dallas's defense definitely can shut down opposing offenses. Now, unfortunately, they couldn't figure things out this past Sunday. We'll see if they end up rebounding this week against the New England Patriots. Their defense right now, basically top 10 in almost every category, and do allow the second fewest fantasy points to the running back position right now. At number 16, Alexander Mattison going up against Carolina. Definitely a good opportunity here for Alexander Mattison to kind of build on what we saw last week. And with Cam Akers in tow, we'll see if he ends up being a guy that gets involved a little bit more this week. But if he doesn't, it should be all Alexander Mattison going up against going up against a defense that is ranked 27th against the run right now, and they have allowed the third most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Kyren Williams going up against Indianapolis. Now, the reason I've got him here in the top 17 is because it is a tough matchup. But the reason I don't have him any lower is because he is the dude, playing almost 100% of the offensive snaps this past week, was even utilized on special teams a couple of times. He is the guy for Sean McVay. He's on the field all the time, and he gives us the most opportunity for touches, averaging just over 15 touches per game right now. Alvin Kamara making his comeback this week going up against Tampa Bay. Definitely think he's going to be utilized on the ground and in the passing game, but I don't think he's heavily utilized as of yet. Missed the first 3 games of the season. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to kind of get back up to game speed. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of a 50-50 or maybe like a 50-25-25 split between Alvin Kamara and then a couple of the other backs with Kendre Miller and Tony Jones as well, as they kind of work his way back in to the offense. Javonte Williams going up against Chicago. I mean, if there's ever a time for Javonte Williams to have himself a good game, it's going to be this week, going up against a Bears defense that has allowed the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs this season and is currently ranked 19th against the run. Maybe not a ton of upside, but definitely a nice floor for him this week. Devon Achane at number 20. Again, I just mentioned it a minute ago with Raheem Mostert. If you missed Raheem Mostert, go back and listen to that, because it will give you everything that I think about Achane as well. But just a quick summarize again, going up against Buffalo, I could definitely see Achane being on the field much more than Mostert this week, seeing more of a 50-50 split, or if Miami is behind against Buffalo, maybe seeing him on the field a little bit more towards the 55 or 60 mark. Roschon Johnson at number 21 going up against Denver, who just absolutely got clowned by the Miami offense last week. He's going to have an opportunity to potentially take this job from Khalil Herbert this week. Dameon Pierce at number 22 going up against Pittsburgh. As good as Pittsburgh defense is at creating turnovers and pressures and things like that, they're also ranked 30th against the run right now. Dameon Pierce scoring a touchdown last week is still averaging 15 touches per game, but obviously an opportunity here to take advantage of a defense that just hasn't been very good at stopping the run so far. Joe Mixon at number 23 going up against a Tennessee run defense that's one of the best in the NFL, ranked 5th against the run right now and allowing the 5th fewest fantasy points per game. Joe Mixon still getting a ton of touches, and the efficiency has actually been really good this year. He just hasn't been getting the amount of touches that we need to reach RB1 upside. Scored his first touchdown this past week. This week, I'm just not expecting a very high ceiling in what will be a very tough matchup. Miles Sanders at number 24 going up against Minnesota. Not sure who's going to be at quarterback this week, and this Minnesota defense ranked 18th in the NFL right now against the run, but in terms of fantasy points, only allowing the 9th fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. Miles Sanders is going to have to find his way into the end zone if he wants to make an impact this week. Brian Robinson at number 25 going up against the number 1 ranked run defense in the NFL right now. He's going to have to be utilized in the passing game this week if we want him to reach any type of a ceiling. If you've been relying on Brian Robinson to win you week weeks so far. Unfortunately, this might not be another one of those weeks. We already talked about it with Denver. Definitely could see Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson getting involved this week. The reason I have Roschon Johnson a little bit higher than Khalil Herbert is because I think Roschon Johnson has a better opportunity to score, and because of that, he's going to end up finishing with more points than Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert, for him to score, I think we're going to have to see him knock a home run. David Montgomery at number 27 going up against Green Bay, making his way back from that thigh injury. They had originally said he could end up missing a few weeks. He's potentially back after missing just one game. We'll see if he's limited tonight going up against Green Bay. I'll put him at 27 though, because I think if they get in the red zone, he could definitely see a touchdown for sure. James Conner going up against San Francisco. This is not the type of matchup that we want to see if James Conner is a guy that we've absolutely been relying on so far, but he's averaging 19 touches a game and almost 100 total yards per game. His finish is a top 24 running back each of the first 3 weeks and averaging almost 15 yards per game. He is a top 10 running back for sure right now. And yeah, San Francisco may be currently ranked number 3rd against the run, but they've allowed the 18th most fantasy points at the position. Now, the reason for that is maybe not picking up a ton of volume on the ground, but definitely running backs against San Francisco being utilized through the air and scoring touchdowns when the team does score. So if you're running James Conner out there this week, just know that the ceiling isn't very high, but definitely could still get the touches. Najee Harris going up against Houston. I mean, if you were to say, hey, I'm definitely taking Najee Harris against Houston. Their run defense is allowing the 5th most fantasy points to running backs right now, I would absolutely get it. But Jaylen Warren is being heavily involved as well. Not as much last week as maybe as we'd like to see, but he's averaging like 3 less touches per game than Najee Harris right now, but he's averaging like 10 more yards per game than Najee Harris. He actually has one top 24 finish where Najee Harris doesn't even have any, and he's averaging 7.2 fantasy points per game to 5.2 from Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren is definitely going to have to be utilized a little bit more often, and if this Houston offense can showcase what they did last week but against Pittsburgh this week, then Jaylen Warren is going to have to be on the field because Pittsburgh is going to have to be hurrying up a little bit. And then at number 30, Jerome Ford. I know the Jerome Ford truthers out there are still on board with him being the guy, and that's fine. You can go with him all you want to. And I know last week Baltimore didn't put up the best effort against Zach Moss, but Zach Moss only averaged 4.1 yards per carry last week. It took him over 30 carries last week to get over 100 yards. That's not very efficient. Jerome Ford this past week averaged under 2 yards per carry. This Baltimore defense is currently ranked number 9 against the run, and because of that, I think we're definitely going to see a little bit more Kareem Hunt this week. Him and Jerome Ford are going to be splitting touches very, very soon. All right, let me quickly fly through a few of my first guys that are outside of the top 30. Isaiah Pacheco, definitely could see a touchdown from him this week, but all 3 Kansas City running backs scored a touchdown last week. Jerick McKinnon had 2. We'll see how many touches Isaiah Pacheco really gets going up against this Jets defense. Rachaad White going up against New Orleans. Rachaad White continues to be highly inefficient, and now he's going to be getting a defense that is very capable of shutting down the run. Currently ranked 11th against the run and allowing the 6th fewest fantasy points per game. If you're starting Rachaad White, you are hoping he gets like 5 catches this week. Joshua Kelly, right now I've got him ranked outside the top 30, just for the mere fact that Austin Eckler could still play this week. If Austin Eckler ends up being out, then I'll jump Joshua Kelly probably up to around like number 23, number 22, somewhere right around Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce. Breece Hall at number 34 going up against Kansas City. I don't think people are giving Kansas City's defense enough credit for how good that they have been this year. They're currently ranked 12th against the run, allowing the 4th fewest fantasy points per game to the running back position. Jaylen Warren for number 35. Again, right now he's just outside the top 30. If he's utilized a little bit more heavy, then we could see him definitely go inside the top 30. If you play in a full PPR league, then I would be willing to put him in over guys like Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, and Brian Robinson. At number 36, Tyler Algier, definitely touchdown upside, but just not going up against a Jacksonville defense that has been really good against the run. I talked about it with Bijan Robinson. Algier has touchdown upside, but not enough volume upside. And I got to mention Saquon Barkley. Last week it was mentioned that he could try and come back this week. They don't play until Monday night, though, and that is my biggest concern. Unless you have somebody that you just can't trust over Saquon Barkley, or unless you have Matt Breida and you can hold out on it, right now I'm probably going to sit Saquon Barkley until we know more about whether or not he could actually play on Monday night. And at number 38, Gus Edwards going up against Cleveland, the number one ranked defense in all of football in all categories. Cleveland's defense has been absolutely crazy this season so far. I'm not trusting Gus Edwards in that matchup. There you go, Headliner Nation. Hopefully my top 30 rankings plus a few more are going to help you get through week 4 of the NFL season. Make sure you hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and leave me a comment down below. Headliner Nation, I appreciate you all. Peace out, stay safe, and stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.